Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. And today we have, a catch-up of things to catch up on because we have missed a couple of things in the past week. We've been trying our best to get, up to date with them. And that is all the latest movies and stories coming out of the world of movies. The thing is, there's not much news, considering that it's Thanksgiving, so that's kind of how things are. So as far as today is concerned, Peter and I did see the Disney film Encanto, and we'll talk about that and a lot of that. I saw House of Gucci and King Richard, and we'll see what other stuff we'll get a chance to talk about as the show goes on. So that's going to be today's episode here on Red Spotlight number 360. Peter, how was your Thanksgiving?
There was good.
All right. So what did you see this week? Did you see anything this week?
Not much of anything. But I did finish the first season of Arcane.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was it?
It's really, really good. I very much enjoyed the show. Hell of a cliffhanger.
Oh no.
Yes. Very, very much a cliffhanger. They already announced season 2.
Yeah. I mean, even if they didn't, they were going to, considering how popular it is and how much Netflix is promoting this.
Yes.
Which is really refreshing, to say the least, to see Netflix promote something of their own material.
That isn't like the fucking Christmas Switch or some shit like that.
I know. I know. That's interesting. So, was this cliffhanger anywhere near infuriating as Loki's cliffhanger was?
No, because what's infuriating about Loki's cliffhanger is like, just that whole fucking episode had nothing to do with all the character shit that was going on. While it's a hell of a cliffhanger, but it's all character. It's show
rooted in the actual stories and characters of the show instead of servicing a larger franchise. That is a novel idea. I wonder why more people don't do that in storytelling.
Because it doesn't sell.
Ah, okay. But doesn't the fact that Arcane is successful, wildly successful, some would even say in its own right, doesn't that in and of itself make the argument that it does sell?
It ain't MCU successful.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
As long as MCU's on top, people will point and go, well, you're not that, so might as well try to emulate that. But no, Arcane's all character and difficult to. I always say this, like characters grow when you force them to make difficult decisions. And I feel like a lot of modern pop media does not force their characters to make difficult decisions at all. It's they have them make the illusion of difficult decisions. They never put them on the spot and go like, doing this right now will maybe help you, but also probably kill innocent people. Decide, right? Arcane very much has characters make decisions, and if there are horrible consequences, there are horrible consequences, and if it's helpful, it's helpful, right? Like it's not, and the characters grow from whatever shakes out of that. And I think that's what people are really responding to. It's like, oh, like this is a show with characters and stuff happening. That's a novel idea. But also the fucking animation is I think the best I've ever seen in an animated show.
Is this anime or anime inspired?
I mean, no.
It's not any of those things.
No.
Because it seems kind of anime.
You would know more than me. So maybe when you watch it, you can let me know if there's anime vibes. I will say this. They're like because in animes, it's like, even if it's like big, it's like the serious anime, then there'll be like the title song, and it's like da 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 da. It's like a pop song,
right?
And that would always throw me off. 'Cause it's like,
get over it, man.
I know.
No,
okay, but let me. I know.
Yeah.
Hey, chill, fucking chill. All right, god damn it.
I'm like, you complain about the weirdest things when it comes to. I know anime is weird, but it's like, I guess this is the perspective of somebody that didn't like grow up on it. Where we're like questioning things that I guess yeah, you're right though. If you haven't been exposed to it, which you seemingly went out of your way to avoid it, you would have these weird questions about like, well, why? How do these things work? But none of us have these questions that have like, we're kind of like raised on it because nothing really makes sense. It's just, it is like you asking like, why is there a talking cat? I don't know what to tell you. Whatever anime you were talking about, but you're right. All of them have. I honestly didn't even mean as far as to how the show is like, I meant like the look of the animation. I was saying looks like anime or anime-esque.
Not at all.
No?
No.
Are you sure it doesn't? Because it seemed very heightened and animated. Like, I don't...
It's very animated, but it in no way to me looks anime. Like, yeah, you can pull up pictures of like the characters and stuff like that. It's heavy animation style, unbelievably well done. Like I said, I think the best I've ever seen in an animated series. But I never got anime vibes off the animation.
I'm looking at the images and they're giving me anime vibes.
Really?
They're screaming anime vibes. I don't know.
Remember, I'm not the one to consult on this. Maybe you are right. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is my favorite anime.
The one and only.
But I will, like, to the whole song thing, I don't, it would always throw me off because it's like if there was like a hip hop song to the opening credits of like The Godfather, you know? Like it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bust some goons, da 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 da. But like that's what anime. I'm not. I'm not wrong. Tonally, I feel most anime intros are a fucking nightmare. They do not paint a picture for what you're about to watch at all. Tonally,
I disagree. Well, it depends on which anime. Not all of them.
Okay, fine. Not all of them. But here, they kind of have that, where they have like a pop song intro. It's from Imagine Dragons. And
of course it's from Imagine Dragons.
Imagine Dragons. And it kind of, I was like, that's kind of anime-esque. Because you see all the characters, and it's like, you wake up, do-do-do, 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 Imagine Dragons.
That's literally an anime intro, if there ever was one.
Yeah, there you go. But I dig the intro, so maybe I'm still, my heart is growing 3 sizes this day. But no, check it out. For sure. It's very, I highly recommend. Very good. And it's also very gay.
That's always a plus.
It's adult animation. They say fuck a few times. There is a sex scene, although not explicit. And they show
You didn't
blood.
go all Eternals on this?
No. I mean, it's a little bit more visceral than Eternals, but you do not see, it's not like, I don't know. It's still the same thing of like naked people you can't really see naked in bed. You can kind of tell one's on top of the other. Like, it's not explicit. But also, they throw in several pop songs throughout the whole show.
Do they?
Yes. So it kind of fits. And they got, like, it's a lot of different types. There's rap. There, like I said, Imagine Dragons. But no, for sure, check it out. I really, really liked it. And that's really all I saw.
I want to ask this question because no one has seemingly... I've heard a lot of raving about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying this is like one of the best animations you've ever seen as far as a series is concerned. What happened to Invincible from earlier this year?
I still love Invincible.
I'm asking how would you compare this to Invincible?
Compare it?
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard.
Which do you prefer?
Which do I fuck? I don't know.
Okay.
I really, really like Invincible. And I like the animation style. Because I think it's very... There's a point to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like animation-wise, this is clearly leagues better.
Right. Just visually anyway.
Yeah, visually. I don't know. They're very different. But and also the thing is, and I know I did this to myself. I know the story of Invincible. I have no idea what Arcane is. I had no idea what it was until I watched it.
Okay.
Apparently, because I guess it's based off a video game, so there's some pre-established lore. But from what I can tell, they sort of just, you know how like in fighter games, actually you don't know, but in fighter games, they have character bios, and that's basically it. Like, oh, this character comes from the town of such and such, and they were trained to be a fighter since they were 5 years old. It feels like a lot of these pre-established lore was kind of like character bios, and then they took that and created an original story. And yeah, I don't know which way it's gonna go, but I can 100% see people saying like, "Oh, this is better than Invincible."
Really? Wow.
Yes. Me, I don't know.
Bar.
I like both.
Yeah, Invincible was, as close to perfect as you can be.
Oh yeah, it was really good.
So that's a really high bar to reach. But it's always great to hear of more great television shows out there, and just more great storytelling. I can't wait to see this on your end of the year Letterboxd best TV shows of the year list.
What? It's not on Letterboxd. I checked.
Well, just give it a minute.
It's a show. Why would it be on Letterboxd?
Oh, now we're going to distinguish what's a show and what's a movie. I love how we're always playing on your terms and nobody else's.
It's getting to season 2. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so is Squid Game, but that's still there. Anyway, I had a kind of a question that came across my mind, and how on earth are we going to facilitate... Here's the thing. I imagine, as these things usually go, we're not going to be able to see most of the movies that we want for 2021 because there are so many, and there's still many that are out there left. Off the top of my mind, there is still West Side Story by Steven Spielberg, Nightmare Alley by Guillermo del Toro. There's Licorice Pizza. There's Kingsman. There's Spider-Man. There's Being the Ricardos. There's Belfast. And that's not even to mention any others that could pop up there. So there's a good number of movies left, and I probably would expect that by the time we get to the end of the year, as we usually do, we're not going to be able to finish them. I mean, to see all of them in time.
Yeah.
So, do you think then we should, at the very least, do the top 10 of 2020 at last, or what's happening?
Yes. I say I'm fine with the next thing we do being 2020. I'm locked and loaded and ready to rumble.
Now, you and I have been, as you say, locked and loaded and ready to rumble. But are we going to move forward with just you and me doing this if no one else is going to participate?
Kyle will participate.
Are you sure?
He was making his list.
Okay.
I assume he will check it twice, and it will be done. Tell him, like, we're gonna... It's scheduling time. We need to find a date.
Yeah, for a while I was flirting with the idea of, like, why don't we just combine both years into one list?
No.
And just see how that would look like. But it's a non-starter with you.
Yes, it is.
It's just...
I have a way things work in my head, and that's it. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. What I saw this week, so it was Thanksgiving, and I thought to myself, it was late during the day, you know what? Let's put something on. I need some high-class entertainment here. And what did I watch? Knives Out. The Bryan Johnson whodunit.
The best Thanksgiving movie?
Honestly, kind of is. I think I'm going to be watching. I'm thinking that's going to be a tradition from now on with that movie. It is. I mean, we've said so much great things about the film when it was first released, and then even afterward when we did the audio commentary with both the Morinos and Kyle. But there's just something about this movie. Like, it felt like I was watching it again for the first time. Only I wasn't, because I knew a lot of the lines that were coming up. And it was just something about just relishing everybody's performance and the dialogue and just all of the stuff going on. It was the most entertained I had been in quite some time. And it's like, man, that is a great fucking movie. There's not a bad thing I can say about that film. And it's been a long time since, I mean, even though we've had a lot of really good movies this year, I think, by and large. But a lot of the good ones also have their fair share of issues. This is a film I don't have a single issue with. It's perfect. At least perfect for me. And I loved it. I was cackling, laughing so hard, and just like, also just, you know, falling down the rabbit hole. And even just remembering the first time we all saw it together, because it's around this time we saw it together, I think 2 years ago.
Yes.
Knives Out.
That was a great screening.
It was, absolutely. And just like, you know, it's some lines that just like, you know, but a donut or a hole in, and I don't know, what was it called? But a donut in its own hole.
Kyle, did it ruin that line for you?
No, thankfully, no. When he says it, it's awful. Because it's him. But when it's in the film, I'm not thinking about Kyle. And an explosion just went off behind me, if you could hear that. Sorry. There was a firework that somebody threw. And so if you hear a dog barking, there is that. But Knives Out's beautiful. I don't know if you've gone back to see it lately, but it's kind of amazing.
I have not seen it recently, but I agree with everything you have said. I'm sure I will get in a quick rewatch when Knives Out 2 comes out.
Yeah, that's a high standard to live up to. It really is.
Yep.
But if anybody can do it,
Bryan Johnson, who's never made a bad film.
Yeah. Never ever. All right. Well, let's talk about some other I have some lingering, I don't know, not lingering thoughts, but I guess I had some questions I wanted to ask you about Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes, hit them.
I don't know. I felt I made myself pretty clear when we talked about it last time, how I felt of the movie. But even still, I don't know, maybe I didn't, but Kyle asked me, it's like, so you really felt nothing for the movie? And I'm like, no, I felt nothing. I'm sorry. But evidently a lot of people do. A lot of people love this movie. And I don't know, it's just kind of, it's not so much that I'm annoyed that people love this particular movie or are connected to these particular characters. I mean, one, I really do wonder what they saw in this that they felt such a connection with. I know we talked about the animated series, but it's just I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around what is so special about this particular property that people have such a, reverence for. And on top of that, what I'm annoyed with is just how easy it all works for this film. I mean, on the audience, with all of the, a lot of the stuff that they did was pretty blatant nostalgia baiting. But when other particular properties do it, then they get the ire and hatred. And I know we've discussed this particular aspect. Well, because in this movie, some of it does feel like it's coming from a real place, and it doesn't feel as nihilistic or as like cynical as some of the Star Wars stuff did. Sure. But like, the thing that I don't think I can reconcile is the person that would say that Ghostbusters Afterlife is great and Star Wars The Force Awakens is trash. That is... And so I don't know if you want to address any of that I threw out there.
Like most things, I think you're feeling slighted.
No, I'm feeling kind of confused about the appeal of this property. Because I told you I saw it again, the original movie, and it's good. But I guess I'm just curious about where the this natural phenomenon came from. Like, what was it about this property that just spoke to people? Because that I can't connect.
I don't know. It's the proton packs. People think the proton packs are cool. I think the idea of being a Ghostbuster, people find charming. Throwing on the proton pack and like busting ghosts. There is, as I've said before, an everyman quality to Ghostbusters. Like Ernie Hudson, the reason why he was a Ghostbuster was because he came applying for a position. And I think everyone adult has ever, you have applied for a position before. So this idea of like, I don't have to be born special. I don't have to fucking be in shape even. I just gotta pass a background check and I can be busting ghosts with Bill Murray. I guess there's that sort of quality to it. And it's a charming film, and yes, nostalgia plays a lot into it. But it's like any property. The music is very recognizable, and not just the theme, but like the music itself. The characters and the main actors, and even the goofy world that they build around it. I just think people find it so recognizably fun. At least that's what I see. Why people love it so much. And then yes, of course, nostalgia. They saw it when they were fucking kids, a lot of these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is kind of amazing though, because I feel like it's fine if the nostalgia worked for you here. What I don't think is fine is to say that in this case it was okay, but in other cases it was like, beyond approach. Because I would say, at least from my perspective, in Afterlife, it is by far one of the most, if not the most obscene nostalgia grabs ever used in a movie.
Okay.
Where that's all the movie is.
So we've addressed the confusion, now we address the slighting.
Yeah. And to be clear, the sliding is when it comes to other films which I particularly respond really well to, that these particular people want to just smash down and erase entirely.
Mm-hmm. The most obvious...
That becomes a problem with me.
Okay. The most obvious answer I will give is, because this isn't the reason why it worked for me, but I can probably guarantee it's the reason why it worked for everyone else, is because they show the original characters doing that thing that they do. It's the reason why people lost their shit at Luke being included at the end of
Mando.
The Mandalorian season 2, and the reason why they were pissed off at how his character turned out in The Last Jedi. They want to see the characters do the character things. And in this one, they had the characters doing the character things all together, even though one of them's dead. So, yeah, I think when people talk about, like, quote-unquote good fan service, I think that's what they're talking about. And I want to be very clear, I don't agree with them. I think that's the most dog shit fan service.
Can you go into why you feel that way? And interesting, like, you feel that's the most dog shit fan service, and yet you walked away with liking this quite.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I thoroughly explained.
You did. You explained it. I'm not asking you to really get the whole
okay.
thing. But...
Yeah. Okay. Well, the reason I hate that is because it's pointless. It's kind of, what's the word? It's not embarrassing, pathetic. Maybe, I don't know. There's this character I like, right? I don't want to find out 35 years later they haven't done fuck all with their life. That nothing in this world has moved forward in 35 years, right? Like, no change, nothing. They're the same person doing the same thing. And the fact that I would be happy about that kind of makes me feel weird, or that people would be happy about that. Like, look. It's the same thing. They have remained static forever, specifically for your enjoyment. I don't know, that's weird to me. Like, why would I want that? And that's why the elements of the new Star Wars trilogy that really responded to me were the elements of the characters that showed their growth. Han coming to terms with not being the greatest dad, and his relationship between him and Leia kind of not working out all that much. Leia coming to grips with the fact that, like, fuck, like, fucking this war's still going on and I don't think I can take it anymore. Luke, giving into his fear momentarily and making him turn away from it all. Like genuine change and growth in these characters. I like that because I'm like, oh, like I feel like, to me, that's more respectful of the characters themselves than just going, here's this carbon copy of the last time you saw them, but now they got wrinkles. It's so weird.
Unless you're Bo-Katan or Ahsoka Tano, in which they're ageless.
They're ageless. Like with the Ghostbusters themselves, like it was fun, I guess, seeing them, and Bill Murray still got it. But the idea of, I don't know if you saw the Red Letter Media review of it. They had some good ideas that I always felt would be cool for another, like, I feel like they took the words out of my fucking mouth for a lot of it. Because Ghostbusters was always about, like, it's a business, right? Like, it's about running a business, and they thought it would be a funny thing of, like, it's like Ghostbusters Incorporated. So it's like a big international conglomerate now. And one of the things is, like, the world's falling apart, but all the Ghostbusters are on strike. They're trying to form a union.
Oh my God.
And you have, like, Bill Murray, like ghosts are literally attacking all over the world, and then you got the fucking Bill Murray in front of a table with, like, the union leaders trying to work out a deal to save the world. Like, that's funny to me. Like, that's Ghostbusters. But to have them in more of, like, that capacity, it would be I would like that better. I think that would be more fun. It'd be funny, and it would show, like, oh, these characters just aren't the same. They're not just doing the same shit with the exact same relationships. And they did provide some differences, growth. Like, apparently, they all had a falling out. Egon kind of turned out to be a bit of a what do you call it? A shitty father. Kind of ran out on his family. They give a reason for it, but it's, you know, I don't know if I buy the whole reason completely. So yeah, I feel like I'm rambling at this point. Does it make sense what I said?
Yeah, it does. I'm sorry, aside. It's just another firework went off behind me.
What is it? Okay, this is completely off tangent. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, where we live, it is fireworks central 24/7, 365 days out of the year. It's ridiculous.
It's random, too. Why?
I don't know who in this fucking town has an endless supply of fireworks. Like, fireworks aren't cheap, right? Like, I don't... Why? This ain't like a rich neighborhood. Like, why is there so much goddamn firework? Like, before, it used to be like, okay, the lead up to 4th of July, sure, you'd hear some fireworks go off every night.
The lead up to New Year's Eve.
Lead up to New Year's Eve, and then a little bit afterwards, maybe they're trying to get rid of some supply. Cool. Now, it's fucking, it's every day. Every day I hear some fireworks go off here and there. Are fireworks still that fun? Have you threw this shit every fucking day? It's crazy. I don't get it. I understand your frustration.
I'm done. I'm over it. I really am. Okay, so I guess we should just move on to this other stuff going on here. So, King Richard is a movie. We've seen the trailer in theaters several different times. Directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green. Mm-hmm. King Richard currently in theaters and also streaming on HBO Max. Venus, Serena, and a Plan for Greatness. This is description from Letterboxd. Richard Williams serves as a coach to his daughters, Venus and Serena, who will soon become two of the most legendary tennis players in history. So, here's the thing. This, by the trailer, and I think we can even get into this with you as well as to why you've made the choice to not see this film. But by the trailer, you can already tell what kind of movie this is going to be, and that is basically a feel-good biopic. But I think it definitely rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm sure it did you as well, from the onset, at least from the first time that we saw this trailer, that it seemed as if, oh, great, well, it's not just another feel-good biopic, but it's going to be one where its main character is already from the trailer doing some questionable things, but you're told that no, but it's all for the best because it worked out and that, you know, they were successful at it. So I know that when we first saw this trailer in a theater together, you were like, why are they rewarding bad parenting? I think something to the effect of what you said or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead and explain.
Okay. This whole thing of like, before these kids are even born, I got a 75-page outline of their whole life. And they're going to be tennis stars. And this is the thing. When parents do that, there's like a 0.2% chance, maybe even smaller, like 0.0002% chance that your kid makes it and they become this big star and it's a beautiful thing. And then the other 99.999% of the chance you create drug addicts and alcoholics, because you impose this standard on a kid before they've even had the ability to like be their own person and make any sort of decision for any way they would want their life to turn out, and it fucking breaks them. Like, I'm sorry, but I can't watch a feel-good movie when I don't feel good about the feel-good aspects. I don't think he's a great parent because he's like, oh yeah, like I made sure they're stars. I think it's awesome that he got lucky and they turned out to like tennis. What if they fucking hated tennis? What if they hated the sport? Why does no one ask this? You just build a kid to devote their lives to something that they fucking hate. Like, this isn't great parenting to me. And then a lot of it, and then in the trailer, it's like, people didn't know me, they're gonna know you. And it's very much this, like, parents trying to live their lives through their kids. Like, this isn't good parenting. People fucking fetishize, again, the 0.002% times where this sort of parenting leads to greatness, but the vast majority of the time it just leads to broken people and like fucked up relationships with your parents if you're not in the street begging for money and a fucking drug addict. It's
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty astute observation, because that's exactly how this movie plays out. And I think that's, that's the part of the film that is going to warrant most of this discussion, because I did see it, and I was expecting it to be, your run-of-the-mill biopic, and it was, but I would say as far as execution is concerned, it is far better than, I guess, it had any right to be. It's actually a pretty great film. The problem with me, though, it gets bogged down with who it's about and what they do. And it's like, the film, I feel, understands to a large degree that this particular character is problematic and seeks to do very little to actually address that. And at some point, like, it literally, like, halfway through the film, it is revealed, spoiler alert, although not really if you just read the biographies, that King Richard Williams had other children with other people. And that's mentioned once, where the wife was like, oh yeah, your son came by one time, but do you ever see me complain? And then that's it. It's never addressed again.
Yeah, and Will Smith has such a fascination with these kinds of people. Because it's kind of like the same thing with like The Pursuit of Happiness. Like, from what I remember, like the real guy kind of went through some shit. Like I think in the movie it's like, oh, he was in jail and he wasn't able to do this or that, but they never explain why he was in jail. And I think I had read an article where like it was domestic abuse why he was in jail. And it's like, yeah, let's not talk about that part, It gets in the way of the feel good shit. But yeah, that's another thing where I don't know, these movies sort of exist to massage that portion of the American brain that just adores this idea of like, this system is fucked, but man, how awesome is it that this person made it? Maybe that means it's not fucked. Maybe you need to try a little bit harder. Like, it kind of hits my disgust bone in the same way when you read articles that's like, this kid, like quote unquote feel good articles where it's like, children raise money to pay for heart surgery that janitor couldn't afford. And it's like, this isn't feel good to me. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
Why are we putting it on children to make sure that people have adequate health care in this country? Like, this isn't feel good. This isn't, to me, like, you have to have like a twisted fucking mind to read those articles and be like, oh, isn't this just one? Doesn't that warm your heart? Like, I think it's great that kids are, again, they're doing a good thing, but they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't. And it's similar with these films where it's like, you ignore how fucked the system is, and you just celebrate the 0.0001% of people that make it in an attempt to kind of say, well, see, of 0.0001% of you can make it, then none of you can complain. Like that's the mentality that Americans have. And I think movies like this really push that. And I don't know. I'm very much about fixing the system to help as many people as possible. And I think this sort of thinking has kind of rotted Americans' brains.
Yeah, it works against that goal, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it works directly against it. So it kind of bothers me when I see it.
No, it bothers me
movies.
too. And it definitely, it bothered me throughout the film as well, in addition to other stuff. Now, you mentioned off the bat about, like, you know, parents that make a plan before their kids are born. That's one aspect of it. But as far as I can tell, at least when the movie starts and what they say and what is revealed throughout the events that happen in the film, I think at one point Smith's Richard says something to the effect of, well, this plan, basically, I had this plan was formed, or I guess, no, I'm putting it the wrong way. The reason why you were conceived was because of this plan. So he basically says at one point, now you guys were made because of this plan that I had. He flat out says that at one point. You basically wouldn't be here if I didn't have this great plan.
See, that's like disgusting to me.
Isn't it? But the film just kind of like, I think it's used in a feel-good moment. I think it was trying to say, like, well, I did this all for you. You wouldn't be here if I didn't do this for you. I guess that's what the point of that scene was.
I'm sorry, but like I fucking hate that. That's insane.
I was like, what? Did they just say that?
Like, if tomorrow I'm like, I want to become financially rich, and I want, you know, I want the dream. So I'm going to write out a plan about how my kid is going to be a movie star, and then I'll go make a kid to fulfill that. Like, does no one think that's kind of fucked up?
Yeah, it just feels like the only reason you're even having children is because so you can profit off of them.
Your child is a tool to your success. It's so dehumanizing.
And again, who is this story? Who's this movie about? More so, I mean, you think it would be about the famous tennis players, but no, but it's about King Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And in the film later on, again, they don't go into a lot of this. They really just like say it's happening off screen, but at some point halfway through the film, it's mentioned several times that Richard himself, while his girls are being trained, is like making himself into like a media personality and like making all these businesses to enrich himself. And that the film, again, mentions it's all that's happening off screen, and it lightly suggests that maybe he is in this for self-profiteering, but then it drops that. But then it drops that almost immediately. And I feel like that should be relevant. It seems pretty relevant, but we're not seeing it. Because it clashes with
the feel good, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm see, this is the thing. I have no doubt when you say that it's a very well-made film, that it's a very well. I 100% believe you when you say it's a very well-made film.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why, again, I just don't care to see it,
right,
is because like I said before, if I very much do not feel good about the feel-good aspects of a feel-good movie, what is the point of watching it?
Yeah.
To be like, that shot was good, while I'm angrily watching the film. Like,
Will Smith's very good in this.
I'm sure he's a great. You know what? And as much as I don't like the film, more than anything, I want him to get that Oscar so he stops fucking making these films. Constantly, ever since like around The Pursuit of Happiness, he's been going for the same fucking type Concussion? Of film. Oh yeah.
Tell the truth in the trailer.
He really thought he had it then. Like, holy shit.
He did.
I'm so tired of this version of Will Smith. I hate his feel good.
Oh, would you prefer the Aladdin version of Will Smith?
Honestly, yeah. Fuck it.
Did you ever watch that movie?
No. But I saw Cruella, which is legitimately one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Yeah, I'm just tired of these kinds of films, especially from Will Smith. It's every fucking year. He just has to, not every year, obviously, but for a long ass time now, he just keeps playing
basically
these characters.
Just give him the Oscar so we can all move on with our lives.
Yes, please.
And I think that's a really good chance that that's going to happen this year. That he's going to get that Oscar for Best Actor.
I hope so.
But you know what else is also upsetting about this? Is apparently this could always change, but I was glancing the other day at like what particular songs were in contention for Best Original Song. First and foremost, nothing from Barb and Star, which is atrocious.
Disgusting.
It's not even on the board. But you know what apparently is the front runner? It's from this movie, and it's the same kind of song they always write for this kind of story. It's a struggle song, and guess who it's performed by? It's performed by Beyonce.
So it's gonna win. That's what you're saying?
They currently had it listed as the front runner to win.
It's fucking hate. Okay.
And it played during the credits, by the way. It didn't play during the movie. So
they always do that. Every fucking time. I hate when your movie has like a song and you don't play it in the fucking movie. Like, what's the point? God. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's I got those vibes almost immediately. I think I had to pause the movie, or I tried to pause it in the first. No, I did the first like 5 minutes because the film opens up with Will Smith at this like rich white country club, and like it's just a montage of him nonstop like going up to like rich white people there and bothering them about like, and literally handing them a handmade brochure about his girls and the plan and the trajectory of where it's gonna go. And like it's basically him selling. It feels like he's like auctioning off like his two little girls. It feels very weird and kind of gross. But again, it's all in this like vacuum of, you know, this music being built up, this beautiful picture, and it's all like with the aura of it being a really good thing. But off the bat, it feels weird.
Oh, he's doing the most for his kids. Look at how hard he's working to keep the dream alive, and I fucking hate this. I'm sorry. I hate this show.
And there's even moments where they do address like if he's being too hard on them, but like look at how in the context in which that happens. At one point, in their first home, their neighbor from across the street, you know, literally says it like once or twice to him that, you know, he's too hard on them. And she goes so far as to report, I think, them to child services, and child services show up to the house and they question them. And then like Will Smith goes on this like on this deranged rant, and then they just leave. And then, of course, the neighbor is made out to be the bad guy in this.
It's probably
yeah.
This is probably the big speech about how, look at how great my children are and how great they're gonna be. What I'm doing is necessary, and da 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 da.
That beat for beat. That's what it was.
I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of child abuse. Not my forte. Not into it.
Yeah. So all of that. That's this movie, and evidently it will get a lot of Oscar nominations. It's going to get a Best Picture nom, and it's going to win Best Actor probably, and maybe even Best Song. So, hey, there's that. I guess we found a movie. I guess we found this year's Green Book, right, Peter?
Yeah, but no one's going to treat it like Green Book.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Which is going to be annoying. At least everyone agreed to hate Green Book.
While it won Best Picture.
Yeah, but at least there's a catharsis. Everyone can look at each other and go, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, so you see that's the dilemma. It's like, for me, I enjoyed the film, and I thought it's kind of great, but it's like it's all brought down by everything we just discussed, to the point like, well, I kind of feel bad about this, and I don't want to think about this.
Yeah. No, I get that. I got it.
But yeah, even still, it's like, even at its best, it's a very good movie, but it's still a biopic. It's a very good biopic. So it's like, you know what you're getting in for. So at this point, a lot of us have moved on from those films, so they can only be so much. And so it's not even like on the top half of like my movies this year. Even though it is, I would say, one of the best made movies of the year. That's for sure. Okay. Now there's House of Gucci, which, man, oh man, I really wish you would have... Well, part of me wishes you would have seen it with us, but part of me also realizes maybe you dodged a bullet.
Oh, no. I liked Jared Leto Mario. Don't let me down.
Do you? I can't make up my mind about...
House of Gucci. I thought it would be fun. No.
It is fun. It is fun to a certain extent. Here's the thing. It would be one thing if it was just fun, but there's a lot of aspects to it that are kind of complicated for me. I think ultimately, before I even get into like all the different nuances of it, at the moment, I don't very much care about this movie. And while there are going to be positive things I will say, this isn't going to be one of those that I bother to revisit ever again. Damn. There really isn't. There's no point. I didn't care about anybody by the movie this thing ended, and I was waiting for the film to be over, and it was a little long for me. And that last hour was really hard to get through.
That's a fucking bummer. That's like the worst review you could give for a film, I think.
So I'm just all cards on the table. That's how I felt. Kyle felt very differently. But it seems like
he shat on Encanto.
Well, we'll get to that. It seems like we can't see eye to eye on a movie these days, because if you notice, the last like 4 movies we've just like been on different wavelengths, whether it be this or Encanto or Afterlife or even Eternals. So we've been on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that. But with this, like, I will grant that for large fragments of the film, it is highly entertaining. But I think it goes back to this. I can't make up my mind if Ridley Scott went out of his way. I can't make up my mind if Ridley Scott was trying to make a crime drama or a camp-filled Spanish soap opera telenovela.
I wanted it to be the latter.
The
soap opera.
Okay, it is the soap opera. So it is that, and it has a lot of camp in it. And that stuff works, but it also has some of the limitations of that particular genre where it kind of, and maybe that's even being a bit disrespectful to certain telenovelas, because even they have a pretty thrilling climax and conclusion. The problem with the movie is Lady Gaga disappears for the last hour of the film and doesn't come back into doesn't come back into the last 10 minutes to wrap everything up. And what feels like the last 10 minutes of this film, that should have been a whole hour's worth, because the character makes a massive jump to where they make a choice and somebody gets killed as a result of it. And then it's all wrapped up with, well, this happened and that happened, and then that's how Gucci, and then bye everybody. Well, put the curtain down, movie over. Where the previous 40 minutes was just like, okay, well, what are we doing here? So that's a very questionable choice, where all like the really spicy, juicy stuff just kind of like came at the last minute as if it were an afterthought, where that should have been the focus.
That's unacceptable, I think.
It is, because like there's a whole plot to assassinate somebody, and it's all like done in the last 10 minutes.
Why is that not the focus? I thought that was the focus of the film.
No, that's the last 10 minutes of this almost 3-hour movie. Almost 3-hour movie.
What are they doing for the whole film then?
The first hour feels like a romance story, which then morphs into a family business story, which then morphs into certain members of the family bumping off other members, not like killing them off, but like pushing them out of the way to advance their own careers in this industry. And then it ends up turning into the romance dying, and then bitterness ensues, and then mistresses are introduced, and then the whole thing crumbles apart. And whatever is left to pick up those pieces from is wrapped up in the last 10 minutes. The interactions of all of these actors are hilarious. Al Pacino and Lady Gaga in particular are great. Adam Driver is always great. Jared Leto is interesting because I personally don't have a vitriolic hatred for him as everybody else does. Like I would say it's pretty, like most people would think. I feel as an actor, he was great in Dallas Buyers Club. He was pretty atrocious in Suicide Squad. And everything else, I don't know. Here, I felt like if you're going to go with the interpretation that Ridley Scott knew he was making a camp-filled telenovela, then it was a very clear indication from Scott on Leto's direction to build up on him. And he's literally Super Mario Brothers. He's Mario and Luigi. Like he's doing that voice. The voice that Chris Pratt said weeks ago he would not do is what Jared Leto is doing to the umpteenth degree. And what Kyle said I thought was very astute, and that is Jared Leto feels like he's in a very different movie than everybody else. And honestly, it does clash, and it doesn't work. But because of those things, that's what makes it entertaining. But it still doesn't work.
So we were robbed of the Jared Leto Mario.
He's not in it that much. He kind of comes in and out of the story when he's needed to be like used. He's basically Jar Jar Binks in this story. He's a funnier character than we've done before. I love this late stage career renaissance that Al Pacino's having, because he's amazing in this. But the thing is, like, he's going full Pacino, but even he's outstaged by some of the other personalities like Jared Leto. So that should tell you about how much Jared Leto is amping it up. Yeah, and I think what's also strange to me is, and again, I have to think that this was done intentionally because it's just so bad. It had to have been on purpose, and that is there are these really weird editing choices where they're basically jump cuts. So I'll give you a good example of this. There is this scene in which Jeremy Irons is speaking to Adam Driver, and Irons knows he's about to die, and he finishes off his line by saying something to the effect of, "When I'm dead, this, here, and that there." And then he gives a smile, and then the camera's still on Irons looking at a Driver, and then we just immediately jump cut to Irons lying in a casket. And it elicited such laughter from the audience because it was just so hyper spontaneous. It was like, what are we doing here? And it wasn't the only time. It happened throughout the film when there would be like these really weird cuts. I also don't know. I think the biggest problem though is that Lady Gaga is the main character, but there's a big part of her characterization that's missing when she makes a huge choice from point A to point B.
So you don't really see her make that jump.
No.
Okay. And this is where you got to make changes within the film. Like, maybe, I don't know. I feel like maybe they're trying to follow the real life story more closely. But this is where a film is a film. And if it makes more sense to have fucking Lady Gaga there the entire fucking time so you can see that growth to her making that decision, you fucking do it because it'll make the film better. Doesn't matter if it doesn't line up perfectly with like the real life drama of the House of Gucci. A lot of what you're saying kind of comes off like they're trying to follow the real life shit too closely.
Maybe, yeah. Like the whole middle of this movie basically becomes like the inner politics of the Gucci company of like restoring the name of Gucci or cleaning out the trash and, you know, out with the old, in with the new. And then that happens and then we go somewhere else.
and then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just hard to really care much about. Like, I really did like that first hour, and I did buy into the romance. But then after that, it's just kind of like the more it went on, the more it just lost me. And then I think there was still another half hour, maybe even 45 minutes to go before I was like, man, I'm ready for this to be over.
That's bad. When you're just like, I want this movie to end, that's the worst sign of a film. That's disappointing.
I didn't even give a damn letterbox description. I'll just say real quick. The true story of how Patrizia Reggiani plotted to kill her husband Maurizio Gucci, the grandson of renowned fashion designer Guccio Gucci. Yeah. Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jared Leto, Jeremy Irons, Al Pacino, Salma Hayek, and then others, as I was mentioning there. This is, it's sad because it's a great director and it's a great cast, and this should have been one of the best films of the year easily. And to its credit, it is one of the best looking films of the year. But that's it. I'd say, and I think here's the twist of it all. I would say, because you mentioned this earlier in the podcast, Peter, but I would say Cruella is a far more entertaining watch than House of Gucci. You can say what you will about Cruella, but Cruella's not boring. And who's the House of Gucci for a large part of the film was boring to me.
Yeah, boring. God damn it. Okay. That's so disappointing.
I mean, you can watch it. I'm not telling you not to, but I would be surprised if you walked out and you felt any differently than I did about it. If I'm being honest.
I don't know if I would walk out feeling any different.
Yeah, and especially keep in mind, I was watching this fucking thing at 10:35 p.m. We didn't get out until like 1, I think. It was 12:45, I think, a.m. or even 1 o'clock.
I would have fallen asleep.
And then I still went back home after that screening ended to watch 2 episodes of Hawkeye.
You had quite the few hours.
Yeah, and then I had to be up a few hours earlier to do the recording with David, so. Yeah, it was a day. That's for sure. But that was definitely, disappointing to say the least with House of Gucci. Because it should have been so much better. But it wasn't. So there's that. But I can definitely understand why some, just for the pure camp of it alone and just for the pure performances, like Kyle, for example, that would be enough to warrant another, watch. For me, that wasn't anywhere near enough. And there were clearly, the faults were too blatant to just, overlook and, accept and then enjoy the film. I don't. So there is that. So let's move on to the films that we did see. That particular day, earlier in the day, we saw 2 Disney movies. One was the short film Far From the Tree, which that may have been the best movie I saw that whole week. This is directed by Natalie Norigat. And it's a 7-minute short film that played in front of Encanto. And the letterbox description is, curiosity gets the better of a young raccoon whose frustrated parent attempts to keep them both safe. Peter, I'm going to let you read the letterbox description, don't worry, for Encanto, because that's your role. Mm-hmm. But just to get these out of the way with. I was very charmed, and I think I kind of also moved, if I'm going to be honest with you, by this film, Far From the Tree. When it started off, I was kind of reminded of one of my other favorite short films, Piper, which played in front of Finding Dory, and that was the seagull, the little baby seagull that, plays through the water and everything and actually, digs up the little clams. And I think you see actually, it's almost the same scenery from a different perspective. This one from the perspective of raccoons. And as the description said, it's basically this story of, I don't know, this it's kind of like a trying to parent kind of story. They're a father-son kind of story. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not even, it could have been mother-daughter. I can't really tell, because they're raccoons. But I think the point of it was very much like the story of a father trying to protect their child from the dangers of the world. Ironically, or maybe unironically, a much better parenting messaging than King Richard.
It's very clearly a story about generational trauma. I thought it actually interestingly mirrored Encanto, the movie I played before, in ways that you don't usually see with the shorts. Usually the shorts are in no way connected to the film you're about to see. Mm-hmm. But no, I thought it was beautifully well done. No
2D animation even.
Was it 2D? I couldn't even tell. It was beautiful either way. I think it was that fake 2D that they got going on nowadays.
Okay.
But no, it was really well done, and I really it was a good one. It was one of the good shorts. I thought it had a very clear, interesting message. I thought it was emotionally well developed and delivered, and all of it without any dialogue.
Wasn't that something? That was nice.
Very nice.
I mean, to be able to tell your story and get all those emotions across with no dialogue is pretty impressive. Certainly not Olaf's Frozen Adventure, right?
Fuck that movie. Unbelievably ridiculous.
The 20 or so minute short film that played in front of Coco. Man, I'll never forget watching that for the first time. You were completely hating it. And then Kyle next to me was so in love. He was laughing at every single thing Olaf was doing. And I believe he also gave the short film rouse of applause.
He did. The only one in the theater.
I remember it was so despised by people, they actually removed it in Mexico.
Good.
It was 20 fucking minutes of a short movie before. Yeah, that's annoying. But yeah, I don't remember the last time. Here's the thing: the last couple of animated movies, Raya, Luca, and Soul, all went straight to Disney Plus. So, like, I don't remember if there were any short films that went along with those movies.
I think there were,
but I just never saw them
because they never played before the movie. Like, you had to look for them yourself, I guess.
Yeah. So that was that. Now, shall we get to the main event?
Finally. Now let's talk about Encanto, directed by Brian Howard and Jared Bush. There's a little magic in all of us. Almost all of us. The tale of an extraordinary family, the Madrigals, who live hidden in the mountains of Colombia in a magical house in a vibrant town in a wondrous charmed place called an Encanto. The magic of the Encanto has blessed every child in the family with a unique gift from super strength to the power to heal. Every child except one, Maribel. But when she discovers that the magic surrounding the Encanto is in danger, Maribel decides that she, the only ordinary Madrigal, might just be her exceptional family's last hope. Cast Stephanie Beatriz, Jean Leguizamo, Maria Celia Botero, Wilmer Valderrama, Diane Guerrero, Jessica Darro, and, a bunch of other Latino names. So, yeah. Encanto.
So, real quick, Jared Bush, this is his first film that he co-directed, and he was a writer previously for Zootopia and Moana.
Mm-hmm.
And Byron Howard has now had a long history with the studio. His first film with Disney was Bolt, as a matter of fact. His second film, the second one was Tangled. That made up for that. And then the last one was Zootopia. So very much an upward trajectory. And then here we have Encanto. And songs and lyrics all written by, if it wasn't mentioned before, Lin-Manuel Miranda. And he will come up again in conversation, that's for sure. But yeah, this is an interesting one, right?
Well,
maybe not
yes.
The movie, but the reactions to the movie are definitely interesting.
Well, just
can we just say real quick before we even get to that? Because
Okay.
we always do this, like, to establish a bit of context.
Mm-hmm.
How have you felt about? We're not going to count Pixar here, of the Disney Animation Studios and their latest features.
Not great.
So, why?
Fuck Ralph 2 and fuck Frozen 2.
Uh-huh.
Completely dislike those films.
Okay.
Those are the last ones, right?
No.
Oh, what was the last one? Raya? Raya's fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
Fine. That's the thing. Raya I thought was fine. Fuck Frozen 2. Fuck Wreck-It Ralph 2. I don't remember the ones beyond that. It couldn't be Moana, right? Was it Moana?
It is Moana, yeah.
Okay. I like Moana. Moana. Make way. And that was the last Lin-Manuel Miranda one, right? Yeah. Because he did the music.
Well, yeah.
alone.
You did, yes.
So yeah, since Moana, I haven't been head over heels for Disney animation.
Yeah, we don't feel the same at all. I don't think...
You raved about all three of those films, yeah.
I did not. Ralph Breaks the... No, I didn't. Ralph Breaks the Internet was I think, a solid movie. But it's not something I think about or think to quite often. It very much is one of those, like, sequels that didn't need to happen. So, as a film, it's pretty disposable. But it's not atrocious.
It's atrocious.
That's not my perspective. Frozen 2, I thought was pretty fucking great. And that's where we'll leave it. We're going to leave it there because we can't move beyond that. And Raya, I liked a lot in spite of its issues and in spite of its very, I would say, awkward execution of its message, or even just awkward messaging. But I still kind of really, really liked a lot of that movie. And as far as like Disney animation, I've really felt good about, because I feel at this point we've kind of are reaching the point where we've run out of the projects that were greenlit by John Lasseter, and now we're fully in the era of Jennifer Lee. And I'm very curious.
A woman.
And I'm very curious to see where that's going to go. And as far as like Encanto and Raya, I think I feel really, really differently about those two movies. I just am grateful that at the very least with, and I feel like this is going to be the focus now, thanks to Lee, and then hopefully with Doctor. Again, there will be exceptions. Doctor leading Pixar, but it seems like those units are basically doing the only work on the behalf of Disney to produce original stories, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's currently where we stand. But I've always loved Disney animation. I even love movies that are, quite frankly, not so great. I kind of liked Bolt. I don't remember it.
You own Cars 2?
Yeah, and I kind of enjoy Cars 2.
Oh,
it's a
no.
Really, yeah. It's bad, but I kind of enjoy it. So
You're disgusting.
I'm honest. That's what I am.
That's true sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the reactions to this film have been interesting because Kyle hated it, you hated it,
I did not hate it.
Moreno loved it.
I didn't hate the movie.
Hated it. So, and I don't know what David even felt. I don't know if he saw it. So we've been having a lot of back and forth feelings on this film.
Yeah, it's strange because with Kyle, it's hard to remember him outwardly hating an animated movie from Disney or Pixar. Like, I can't remember the last time that's happened. So he walked out with such a visceral anger. I think the first thing he said to me was, "This movie can go fuck itself." That's what he said. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we were sent a video of Alexis walking out of the theater and her breaking down and uncontrollably crying, and the positive affirmation of this film. Those are two very extreme ends of the spectrum, I would say anyway.
Yeah, I would agree.
And for me, this is strange because on paper and on the trailer, I was like, man, I should love this. And I've now had a couple of days to think about this, and I very decisively don't love this. But I enjoyed the film quite a bit. And I think for me anyway, I think it's a very good movie. But I feel like the biggest problem with the film lies in its songs. My thing is, if I feel with this particular genre of film, it's far more fair to judge it on these particular metrics than, let's say, how we've discussed for the longest time about how there are a contingent of people who judge comedies based on how funny the jokes are in those films, or judge horror films based on how good the scares are in those films. Now, by that same metric, there are, and I would say it's pretty fair to, maybe even more so than those other ones, but comedy I think is pretty fair. But with musicals, your songs kind of need to be good if you're a musical film. And if, like, for example, like with what happened earlier this year with In the Heights, I responded really positively to the music. And I liked the film overall quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Peter didn't like a single song in the movie and didn't care for the film in the least. Now, I feel that kind of is a make or break thing. If you don't like the songs in a musical, then how do you like the movie? I think that's a pretty fair thing to bring up.
That is very fair. And, oh no, go ahead.
And my thing, and this is kind of the what was surprised at, because I like most Disney films, just like I do. And I like most the Disney musicals. This is the first time I've walked out like, man, not only was I underwhelmed by all of the songs, there were some of those that I actively just disliked. And I did my homework where it's like I went back and tried listening to them on the soundtrack on my phone. And I couldn't. I just couldn't get through some of them because there are Lin-Manuel Miranda-isms. More so in this than in Moana. It didn't bother me at all in Moana, but in this, there are some things that are emblematic of his work that very much clashed with the story and with these characters. And when you hear the bops and the rhythms that Lin-Manuel is associated with, sung by these characters, it really just is wrong to the ear. And I just like, I can't listen to this. The songs in the film that I will say, and apparently they were written by him. But they didn't sound at all like the rest of the songs in the movie. Were Colombia Mi Encanto, performed by Carlos Vives, which is like, it was the song you heard in the trailer. Yeah. That's a catchy one. That's a good one. Yes, that's the one. And then also Dos Orgullitas, which is the song that's played when you're seeing the grandmother's flashback. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I will say I liked and have listened to. Mm-hmm. But the rest of them, I thought they were kind of a swing and a miss. Mm-hmm. And that's rare for me to feel. Mm-hmm. And at this moment, I think those are my biggest problems with it. There are far more substantive issues that some of us had with the film, and we'll get into it. But for me, that's the thing that weighs it down. And that's the thing that makes me care less about the film. The story, I thought, though, was very good. I liked the characters. I thought it was aesthetically just visually very interesting. I loved the casita and the lushness of the environment. And the humor is very good all around. So I still think this is a very good Disney animated film. But the music is just, it's not doing it for me, man.
All right. So this is why you're wrong.
Thank you.
In the Heights had some boring ass songs. Fucking nothing memorable with that goddamn film. When it comes to the music. Sorry, not sorry. Okay? The two songs you mentioned, they are good. I like them very much. But there's also other ones that are also good. We don't talk about Bruno? We don't talk about Bruno? Very good.
I will admit that one is the better one of those.
It's good. Good. And you know what? I have listened to the soundtrack since seeing the film. I have listened to the individual films, the fucking Family Madrigal. It's All of You. We don't talk about Bruno. Surface Pressure. Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I don't like where this is going. But go ahead.
What do you mean you don't like where this is going?
Go ahead.
Well, the aspects of the songs that I'm not crazy about are sort of the modernized pop sense to them. Like, what I liked about Moana was that it was very much in its element, the music, right? I don't feel it ever moved out of that. Maybe with like You're Welcome, they kind of do that, but it's kind of like this fun song, so it feels okay that's like the one song that kind of moves out of that. And for here, the aspect is I don't like when they try to be modern and hip. Like, go fuck yourself. I don't know. I don't like that shit. That being said, they're still good songs, I think. Much better than a lot of other work that he gets praised for, including In the Heights. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. What else?
I mean, if you want to know how I feel about this film, I think it's very much one of the better Disney animated films. I think I can easily say that. On the whole. There he goes, shaking his head. The motherfucker that adores Frozen 2 is gonna judge me. Gonna judge me for very much.
I didn't say I was judging you. It's just we can never see eye to eye on these movies. It seems like
this, for whatever reason, me and Moreno have been seeing eye to eye. I don't know why. So this is another one. Moreno, eat your heart out.
She loves Frozen 2.
I said recently.
She quite liked Raya.
Recently, like
she quite
2
liked
weeks,
In the
like
Heights.
the fucking last 2 months.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what a year ago isn't recently to me.
No.
Sorry, I know older people time's different. Okay.
Okay.
But yes, I very much think this is easily one of the better Disney animated films. And yeah, you bringing up the most recent animated Disney films made that a lot easier to say.
I mean, I guess I just don't agree.
I know.
I don't feel the same way. I mean, I sure didn't love this, and maybe I will when I see it again at some point, but like I'm not so sure I would say it's easily better than some of those other ones I mentioned. But then again, you don't like those ones, so then
yeah,
that's where it's just we disconnect there.
Easily better. Easily. Well, for one, I think the animation is really good. Like, really, really, really good. And it's not that it's beautiful, because, yeah, for sure it's beautiful. It's Disney animation. Every fucking film they make is beautiful. But I feel more so than I've seen, again, recently, there's a lot of life to the intricate little details within the animation of each character. And there's so many little side gags and illustrations that are just so quick, and they happen, and if you don't point it out, you wouldn't notice it. I think through the animation, they bring a lot of life to each character in an above par way, so to speak. That's as far as that. I really like the story. I really, really like it. I really like how it takes place all in one magical house, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really fucking cool. She goes on this grand quest through her house, but it's a magical house, so you can do that. So you both get your grand journey, and you never step outside your door. I think that's really cool. I liked the emotional core of the story. and what it was saying and how it said it. And there's just little moments within the film that I find, I don't know, I just enjoy. I think they warm my heart. Again, growth 3 sizes today. 3 sizes. And I don't know, I like them. And I think they're well executed. Yeah, I'm very curious. The music, because I do think there are good songs in this film. There's a couple. I'd have to rewatch it. But my issue isn't so much that they're bad songs. It's that it's this weird poppy feel.
Well, that was my issue too.
Yeah, and I just.
And that for me overpowered the good elements of those songs because it was a theme throughout all of them. That's why it's like those are the parts that make it hard to listen to, at least for me.
I don't feel it overpowers all of them. I think the family madrigal, when they're introducing everyone, it's really not that poppy.
Right.
We Don't Talk About Bruno is not that poppy at all. The one where it really overtakes it is
Surface Pressure. Yeah, and the other one, Isabella. The Isabella song.
Yeah, I haven't re-listened to that one, so I think I forgot the way that one sounds. But yeah, those are the ones where it more does that. But even on that alone, I don't think they're bad songs.
The Surface Pressure one was kind of confusing to me because that one to me was the biggest miss in the entire film. I didn't like that song in the least, and it put me off, but it also made me feel like, why is there a song right now? Why does this need to be its own number? At least when I was watching the film, it was like, why this feels like this doesn't need to be a whole number. Whatever this is.
Maybe. I mean, I guess for me it makes sense. That's kind of, songs are about what's that quote? Like people break out into the song when the emotion is just so high you can't do anything else, right? Like isn't that the kind of the rule for musicals?
Right.
When the emotion is at its peak and you just got to belt out a song. And that's kind of that's kind of what happened with the character. Because it's all about, I guess, a spoiler. Well, not a spoiler. You can see the fucking clip online. It's about the sister Luisa, I think. She she just feels so much pressure, and it's kind of getting to her, and she's letting her sister know that she has all this pressure on her. I don't know. To me, it makes sense. Again, the issue is with that song, it just feels like they throw a lot at the wall.
Yeah.
And it's just like they reference a circus, and it's like, why? Like this isn't modern times, right? Like they wouldn't have any.
They don't even go anywhere.
She would have no reference to a circus. And then they bring up like Hercules and Cerberus, and I guess that has some sense in that she's like really strong, like Hercules, but still it's a little weird. Yeah, it's just a little too much, and I get that.
I think to me the strongest aspect of the film though is the main character, Mirabel.
Yes,
I really, really do like her, and I think she really just carried this film. And I guess this will get us into a far more interesting topic of conversation, which is how the character is treated by the family. And this in particular was the source in which Mr. Lira was highly enraged by. And I am told that Fantasy Fair is going to have a review of this with Kyle.
Yes.
And Peter Martinez stepping in for Alexis Moreno, which is quite interesting.
She tagged me in, yes.
She tied you in, and you accepted.
I accepted wholeheartedly.
And so you're going to make your return to the Fantasy Fair, which is the first time since when?
Fuck if I know. I've been kicked off a couple of times, so.
Yeah, so that will make for a highly entertaining episode if you want to listen to it. When this is going to feature this particular conversation. It's really hard to not feel for Mirabelle because the story as it goes, and this is where we get into the spoiler territory, she's in this family and all of her relatives they went through this ceremony, kind of like a baptism of sorts. And they touch this door and the house gives them their own unique power. But it just so happened that she was the only one. She was the first and only one where she wasn't given anything.
The house said, fuck you.
Literally. And then the family responded by basically saying the same thing to Mirabelle, by treating her like cattle. Or not even that. Or just like basically, they didn't treat her like cattle, but their comments, I think, suggested otherwise. There was a lot of passive-aggressive stuff going on.
They don't treat her like cattle. That would imply wanting her to do anything. She's just kind of like, well, she's here, maybe try to be here, but to the side. You're getting in the way. Like it's that kind of thing.
Which is hilarious because, Mirabelle, all she wants to do is to do anything she can to help. Mm-hmm. And she feels like it almost feels like, well, because she didn't get a power, she feels the need to make up for that in other ways by helping out the family and proving her worth to them. But the more she does that, the more they're all turned off by her and just want her to just basically not exist. Because it's the fact that Mirabelle is doing everything or doing too much that is pissing them off.
And see, this thing, I thought that was encapsulated well in the first song. Because they ask her, they ask her about herself, and she responds by talking about her family.
Yeah.
And it's this thing of, she's very much kind of... You don't have to literally hear her say it, but she's ashamed of herself. And she views herself as lesser to her family, and it's a lot easier to just kind of, hold them up than have to deal with herself, because they keep asking about her, and she's like, well, my aunt and my uncle and my cousin, and they're like, we're not asking about them, we're asking about you. And she just tries to avoid the question. And I thought that was well established, boom, right in the beginning with that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
she's I think she's really likable, because for me, that whole thing of her relationship with her youngest cousin, who's gonna get his powers, and the struggle between loving her cousin and being proud of him, and just kind of being heartbroken.
Yeah, that was tough.
That's tough, right?
Yeah.
And then you feel like more of a bad person, because
I felt like shit watching that. Honestly, that was crappy to see. I felt so much for her.
Yeah. So I thought that was all well done, and I very, very much felt for her as a character.
And the cousin, we should say, maybe he's one of the few ones in the family that actually cares about her.
Because he's a kid, he doesn't view it in the same way
as everybody else.
He just sees it as this is my big cousin that's been here for me. You didn't get a tear when he asked her to walk him to the door?
I was too busy being enraged at the whole family giving her the stink eye and literally the entire audience gasping when they saw her come out. And further angry at the fact that the family which is at the center of the house, and the whole town is in there gathered for this ceremony, literally asked Mirabel to wait backstage and to not be seen. That was particularly offensive. I was like, they didn't.
Get out, bitch.
That's a whole other level of, that's not even passive aggression. That's like, that's crossing over to abuse.
Did they specifically ask her not to be out there?
Why else would she literally said when the cousin asked her, I can't, when, he asked her to walk with her. And I don't know if maybe in that moment she was referring, well, I can't walk with you, probably. But why was she standing backstage in the first place? Why was she away from the family? Unless the family was like, we can't have you there because if you're there, then everyone's going to remember the last failure because of you.
I think they never told her, but it was this thing of like...
Oh, what? It was implied?
It was implied. Like, they want things to go well. And for whatever reason, it didn't go well with her. And they're just so worried about it not... whether it's actually gonna... if he's actually gonna be able to get his gift or not.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No. But yeah.
You're right. That was a heartfelt moment, but I myself was distracted with being pissed off at like 1,000 other things going on.
I mean, okay.
But it was sad, though. It was sad, because, I mean, it was kind of magical to see him get the powers. So he, touches the door, and he gets his powers, and everyone immediately starts celebrating. The family is relieved, but no one even bothers to think of Mirabel. No one bothers to think about how crushing this must be for her, or from a more practical standpoint, even question the house for why she didn't get a power. We just all accept this victory, the fuck with Mirabel's feelings, and we all move on.
That's not true. There's several instances where she talks with her mom, and I think another character, where they admit, like, I understand this is going to be hard for you tonight. And they try to talk her through that. There was a couple of times where it came out in that one.
But in the immediate aftermath?
No, not in the immediate. And immediately when they found out he had powers, they're like, fuck it, let's drink.
That's what I was referring to. And so...
But they talked to her beforehand.
I know. But I don't know. It didn't feel authentic. After the fact, there is... I think Mirabel first sees that the house is having problems.
Mm-hmm.
That there is a danger happening. And she goes tells them.
And real quick, I just wanted to say, visually, like the house, like how it like moves, and the way it like has expression to it without having a face, all that stuff is really good animation, I think.
It is, and it works.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And the house, very much in and of itself, is a character in this film. And that's a very good. Now, what happens is she sees the cracks. Everybody comes out, and of course, I rolled my eyes in frustration that, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. Everything looks fine. It is as it was. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be one of those scenes where Mirabel is publicly shamed and dismissed, and everyone just walks away from her. But I want to be clear. I'm not necessarily criticizing the film for doing that. I'm just like giving you my real emotion of what it was to see this in real time. That was just rage-inducing. And I think what was also more offensive was after the fact, and I feel this kind of like washed away what you said about the mom, like saying, I know this is hard for you. But after the fact, the mom basically accused her of making this up because she wouldn't believe Mirabel. And she basically came to the conclusion that she was seeing things. Mirabel,
Well,
because of how jealous she was.
there was no cracks.
Okay. Then that's perfectly the reason to dismiss her then.
It's not the reason to dismiss her, but like, if you're her mom, like, what you're saying is here isn't here. Like, maybe there's something else going on. Like, talk to me.
But then to suggest that because of this mishap, she was gonna be like her Uncle Bruno.
She was
basically don't go down the dark path.
She was afraid of losing another family member. That's why she talked to her. That was... And also, the whole point of the movie is that the family does have issues.
I know that, Peter. I'm just saying that these things upset me when I saw them.
But they're supposed to upset you.
I know.
I don't know, maybe...
I'm not being critical about that.
Maybe you're a little close to the source material.
I'm just saying those moments in particular were upsetting and that they were effective. And I get that that was the point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I was trying to say about that.
I felt like you were saying, like, yes, it was supposed to get me mad, but it got me too mad.
No.
Okay. I felt like you were saying that. Like it went too far to the point where it's like, this just pisses me off and I can't come back from it.
I know. If anything got me mad was the assumption that you thought I was saying that. And then it made me think, well, wait a minute. Wait, what?
Well, that's the way it came off.
I'm sorry. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
So yeah. What's next?
Afterwards, she's like, I'm going to save the miracle. And that's when she goes... I think right after that, she goes to Bruno's, oh no, how was it?
No, she goes to,
oh no, she goes
Luisa.
No, she goes to her other cousin who can hear anything.
Mm-hmm. Dolores.
Yes, and she's like, do you hear anything bad? And she's like, oh, Luisa, when you were freaking out, she was freaking out too. So then that's when she went to Luisa, and you have that song about her pressure, feeling too much pressure. And again, the song it's probably my least favorite. I think it's, to quote George Lucas, it goes a little too far. It goes too far in a few places. We might have gone too far in a few places. But I think character-wise, what it does works. And sort of Maribel, you're starting to see the how the effect that Maribel has on her family. You know, what kind of endears you to her. The way she, she gives her sister a hug when she needs it, and she sort of puts in her mind like, hey, like, you can chill sometimes, you don't need to put all that pressure on yourself. And that kind of creates a bit of a change in Luisa. And you see that throughout the film, where she'll have with her other sister, and even who we eventually meet, Bruno. And one of the cool aspects, again, about the film is she'll go into different family members' rooms, because when they get their power, they get a sweet new room to go along with it that I guess sort of encapsulates their power. It's this massive magical room. And Bruno's is fucking sucks. It's this like huge trek up a dusty mountain, and then Isabella's is like this massive, beautiful garden like flowery area, and the youngest cousin's is this massive jungle. It's cool. I really liked all that shit. But what were the other issues you've had?
I don't care about the songs. I already mentioned that. For the most part. And I would say that at the end of the day, it didn't connect with me the way that I thought it would have.
Really?
I don't know why. No, it didn't. And that's curious. But I'll watch it again at some point. But that's kind of what it is. I am sympathetic, though, to the idea that perhaps the reconciliation of the family happened too easily. I'm sympathetic, although I'm not necessarily all
I am
that,
not sympathetic.
I'm not all that animated about it in the least in regards to other people.
I am not sympathetic at all. I think the entire film explored the point at which the reconciliation happens. Because it's not even like a complete falling out. It's more of a realization. It's bullshit. I think that critique, I don't buy it at all. What I really enjoyed and what I really connected with, I guess I can get into little things, is there is a bit of a story about not necessarily immigration, but like refugees. And this idea of the pain, again, similar to the short, this sort of generational trauma that can become passed down inadvertently to the next generation because of the hardship the previous one went through. And I thought that was explored really well within the film. And I thought the emotional beats within it, especially in that third act, I thought all came together very well. I thought it was really cute the way, because the whole point of their gifts, at least from what their abuela says, is that they need to help the town. They, that's their purpose is to help everyone else. And then the way it ends with the town helping them, turn around and helping them build the house. I'm a sucker for that kind of shit. Sue me. I enjoyed that. And then, yeah, all the interpersonal family stuff. I from someone with a big family, it connected with me.
I felt, when I said I was sympathetic to something you dismissed entirely, which I don't think should be dismissed, at least from what I saw, because of how, and it's not just the case with Kyle, but there has been others that have felt similarly to it. And whereas I don't think Kyle was able to articulate the reasons for why he felt the way that he did, this is the part where we can introduce how he felt about this. And that was through a piece that was published a few days ago. It was called Forgiving Toxic Family Members. This is a whole other situation altogether. I want to reiterate again, this is not an issue that I have.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know. I will not attribute any of it to you.
But I think this best describes what some people have an issue with, right? So by the end of the film, this is what the piece writes. The magic fails, the house falls apart, Mirabel blames herself and runs away. Alma goes to find her and apologizes for the way she has treated Mirabel, and everything is apparently fine. Bruno also returns to the family, and they all just bring him back like everything is fine. Mirabel is the one to open the door to their rebuilt home, which restores the magic, and the movie ends with everyone happy. Real quick before I even finish this.
Yes.
This is a Disney film. This is a Disney animated film, and I'm under no illusion that, of course, the film was going to end this way, nor am I upset that it did. This was obviously the ending that they should have went with, and they did for a very obvious reason.
Yes.
And to my particular thing is, I'm not against the reconciliation. I'm all in favor of it. And I think those scenes worked really well. I think to me is I would have liked to have had one or two scenes in between the blow up and the reconciliation, because it did feel just a bit too quick Not that I'm upset that it happened in the first place. That was my particular issue.
Can I
with
ask you something?
Yeah.
What would those scenes entail?
I don't know. I'm not the writer, and I'm not capable of like suggesting what it would look like.
I'm not saying to write an entire scene with dialogue and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like, what sort of interaction would you like to have seen in between the blow up? And
That's a very good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just an interaction of some sort that would have like not immediately cut to the big, I guess, like emotional moment of the film. I don't know if that was possible. I don't know what that would look like. That's my honest view of it. But maybe I think I would have felt less. Maybe I would have felt the impact of the moment of reconciliation more if there was more space to breathe in between the fallout and the reconciliation. That's what I suspect would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But do I know what that would look like? No, I don't. No, back to reading this. I got to take part in an early press day for Encanto back in September, and when Disney asked for my feedback, my response to the 35 minutes footage I saw was I supposed to hate the grandma? The way Alma treats Mirabel is likely going to trigger a lot of people who ever felt like black sheep in their families. Or if there was ever a parent, grandparent, or someone who would subtly make you feel lesser like it was your fault when something went wrong. Alma is not outwardly abusive to Mirabel, but she is cruel in a very passive-aggressive way. Mm-hmm. By the time the movie ends, Mirabel just forgives her because she's family, and that's what you do with family. You forgive them. Only this isn't the case. If your family treats you terribly, you have every right not to forgive them. If your parents or siblings or anyone has hurt you, you are under no obligation to forgive them for their transgressions because they are family. The message that Encanto is trying to say is the message that Encanto is trying to say is that everyone is special, is nice, but why does it come at the cost of the people who treated her badly not getting any sort of comeuppance? I don't know if that's the thing. I don't know about that. It seems a bit too much.
Seems a bit vengeful.
It does, yeah. Alma apologizes, and it doesn't matter that she has made Mirabel feel lesser for the last 10 years. Everything is fine now, forgiveness given, but the message that you need to forgive family for being toxic because they are family is not a good one. To a lesser extent, the same could be said about the end of Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh, shit. We're bringing it back.
By the end of the movie, we see Egon's ghost, and we find out that he abandoned everyone for a very good reason. Callie hugs the ghost of her dad, and he fades into dust. The implication is that she has forgiven him for abandoning her, and that is why he was able to pass on. However, having a good reason for doing something terrible doesn't negate the fact that something terrible was done. Mm-hmm. Egon didn't abandon his family, but still sent checks so that they could get by or make sure they were taken care of. He may have watched Callie's life from afar, but he didn't interact, and he didn't try to help her when she was struggling. Egon had a very good reason for leaving, but the implication is that Callie should forgive him because he had a good reason to do so. Mm-hmm. The final thing this person said, if studios are going to continue to explore complex family dynamics, there needs to be some sort of conversation about the fact that you don't need to forgive toxic family members just because they are family. The amount of mileage you're going to get out of Encanto, and I think this is what caused Kyle to react the way that he did, mm-hmm. is going to vary depending on how earned you feel the forgiveness for Alma is. Do we expect the exploration of complex family dynamics in a Disney movie? Maybe not entirely, but it is important that we aren't telling kids that they have to forgive the people that hurt them just because they are family either. Mm-hmm. I feel that was the larger extent of this point fair, although in this movie, yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I completely disagree. I think that article is on the level of when they were complaining about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood about how it was sexist because Margot Robbie didn't get as many lines. I I'm
That was a ridiculous piece.
I think
That was
think
bullshit.
this is ridiculous as well. I think it's in a long line of people bringing in their issues to a film and not paying attention to the film and just not being able it's
refusing to accept the message of the film because they're just ideologically opposed to it.
I don't want to say, this kind of sounds asshole-ish, but I feel like sometimes people get triggered by a film and then they shut down and then they stop listening to the film. Maribel didn't forgive her just because she's family.
That's true.
It's just not true. It's never once stated within the film that forgiveness is you should just forgive your family because they're your family. If anything, that message might be slightly more applicable to like Coco. And I love Coco.
Maybe.
I feel like that I could kind of understand that a little bit more there. But here, very clearly what happened was
the grandma said she was sorry.
Not only did she apologize, she sort of, for the first time, opened up to Maribel and told her about sort of the very devastating trajectory of her life. And while it doesn't excuse what she did, Maribel understands why she was so hard. But the only reason she accepts her forgiveness is because she took that step to ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry, but I feel like people that are mad about this just want to be, they want to create spiteful children. I don't know. Like, they're just like, I will never forgive my dad. Fuck you, Encanto. Like, it just feels weird. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it just
I don't
feels
think they're
weird.
trying to say that, but I agree it does come off that way.
It really comes off like they have their own personal like baggage that something happened to them in their life, and they're one-to-one attaching it to this film. And it's not that. Like, even with like Bruno, they didn't kick Bruno out of the family. He left on his own accord. Now they may have created the feeling where he felt like that was an avenue he had to take, but they never explicitly like, get the fuck out of here. You're not like and just treated him like shit in that way. Maybe they misunderstood him and that hurt him. But I just don't think that's the same thing as like, oh, you kicked him out of the family and now you're welcoming him back. They never kicked him out.
He just left.
He left. And they were so afraid of that happening again that they stopped talking about him because they didn't want that sort of thing to happen to anyone else in the family. So while I do think obviously the family has issues, the movie is about the family having issues. This idea of it's like, always forgive your abuser. Like, I don't know, man. I really feel like people are bringing way too much of whatever issue they went through in real life into it. I'm sorry, but this happens with like every fucking film.
It does. People bring their own stuff into it. We talk about how people project their own lives or emotions onto the film when that's not even what's in the film itself. And that's why I was talking about, the stuff earlier with Ghostbusters, because it felt like, from my perspective, there was a lot of stuff on there that people projected onto it.
For sure. But I'm saying more in the line of like, every time, it feels like every year a film comes out and then people write articles,
right?
And we talk about them like, where the fuck did this come from?
Right.
Where they go like, this film is about hating women, right? And I don't know, it's like fucking Incredibles 2. And I'm like, what? Like, like I didn't like Incredibles 2, but like maybe take a step back and think like maybe I'm bringing something else in here that isn't as there as you think it is. And I really think that's happening with this film. Like, did I get pissed off at Abuela? Oh, for sure, right? Within the film. But I never felt like she or anyone else in the film ever passed the point of like, this is beyond forgiveness, ever.
No, I don't feel that way either. And I think you could see how much of a human she was when she found when Bruno came back, and she didn't even say a word. She just went up and hugged him.
Yeah. Because I guarantee you at the end of the day, she just missed her son. And that whole like, we don't talk about Bruno came of not that they didn't love him, but it's sort of it's a painful thing. Like, you don't bring that shit up. And again, maybe because I'm in a big family, I kind of, again, those kind of aspects I kind of get and connect more. But it's not about like, we hate this person, fuck them, they're out of the family. It's more of what happened with them is really painful, and we don't bring it up because it'll hurt the fuck out of Abuela, and she doesn't want that same shit to happen to her grandkids or any of that shit, you know. And you know what? There I go, right? Like, I'm bringing my own shit into it. So I'm not saying I'm not guilty of doing that too, right? Because I'm clearly bringing whatever baggage and my own life into this film. But I just, to me, again, it's one of those articles where me and you talk about it, and it's like,
where did this come from?
I guess if you want to reach that hard, I guess you can get there. But like, I'm personally, I think you have to take several leaps that are kind of ridiculous to get there.
I mean, I at some point when it gets on Disney Plus at the end of next month, I'll go watch it again and I'll see how I feel. And like I always said with Shang-Chi,
you want to watch it with me and Alexis? We'll be singing along.
Sure, yeah, whatever. That'll. Oh my god. There was an interesting video I saw that, came up recently of Stuckman about opinions changing, and he said something that was quite interesting, and that is that critics are very very scared of having their opinions changed, because I guess they'll feel threatened that their previous opinions on the film are nullified, and that means that they're not, whatever they have to say is just not as much of value as they think it is. We've talked about this. I mean, people's opinions change all the time, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
That means
that's fine.
You're growing.
It means you're growing.
Yes,
you're changing.
You're growing as a person. I think it's the coolest fucking thing. When I mean,
it's a bummer when it's like when it happens to a film you loved and you don't love as much, but it's better even when there's films that you thought you hated, but it turns out you actually liked quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, like I said with Shang-Chi, when I gave it a really positive review back in September, let's see how I feel about this in a couple of months. And we found out, right? And I had a completely different take. So we'll see about this film. All I know is, and I can't really explain why it is, and I think maybe the songs and some of the aspects of those songs had a big deal to do with it. It just didn't connect with me. But that didn't mean that I didn't like it quite a bit, and I did. And there's a lot of stuff in it that's very, very, very good. Yeah.
We've officially switched roles.
But I'm certainly not of the, like, what I know I didn't like. when Kyle said like this movie can go fuck itself, I'm like, wait, what? That to me
was
came
a
out of
little
left
harsh,
field.
right?
Though that like, wait, what? Okay. That was kind of a surprise because he rarely says that about any movie, but a Disney animated movie, that was weird.
No, terror. Like, yeah, he never says that over Disney animation.
But then also on the other end, Alexis was a blubbering mess, even more so than usual.
Mm-hmm.
So this was just like, okay,
and she did say that she was going to write down her thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll read them when I talk with Kyle about them.
Oh yeah, she recused herself and she nominated Peter as tribute.
Yes. I guess I'm her champion to go into the fight with Kyle. Go to the ring. I was nominated.
That's a weird image. You're Alexis's champion.
Oh God, fuck that. It's okay. I remember where she placed up. She can go fuck herself.
Yeah, let's not go there again. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how all of this lands. And whatever, I don't know what the next film we're seeing is at this point.
Is it Spider-Man?
That's close, isn't it?
Tickets.
That's very close.
Kyle's freaking out right now. He keeps messaging us. Should we buy the tickets? I'm not.
All I have to say is, I mean, I told you. Nobody responded to me then, but now everyone's seemingly responding while we're doing a podcast. You said no.
I did say no, but
yeah, that's what you said.
I also said that I thought it would make $1 billion.
Yeah, we've all said that. So, Encanto. That was a film. That was a 60th animated film by Disney Animation Studios. And you can enjoy it in theaters right now, or you can wait for it to come on Disney Plus at the end of, I believe is it Christmas Day?
Yeah, right? Because
Probably,
it came out
yeah.
the 24th, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
30 days later? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah. I guess The Soul on Disney Plus last year was really big for them.
Yeah. I bet you that's what it is.
And this is all the evidence you need, by the way, to tell you that Disney Plus is so reliant on new content, they have to pull from the theatrical releases to make the service seem worthwhile.
But they just had Home Sweet Home Alone. Was that it? Did I say it right?
Yep.
Oh, God. And then Hawkeye. I forgot it came out. Gotta get around to watch that. Yeah.
It's a great family film. It's a good holiday film, too. This will be a big hit, I feel.
I would say, because we saw, it wasn't a packed house, but there was some kids, there was some families.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the parents hated it.
No, I think they like. Some parents I heard in our audience were quite riveted by it.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of people the metric is like, can I watch this with my kids and not hate doing
humanity?
It? Yeah, just hate fucking being there at all. And I think this is one that's like, you can watch and have a good time with your kids.
What would you say are some Disney films that failed that metric in your view in recent years?
Oh, where you're just like, fuck this?
No, well, from the perspective of parents and kids. That what you just said right there.
Oh, where like the parents would hate watching it? Like specifically the Disney animated films?
Yeah. Because if you're saying Pixar, clearly it's Cars for the most part.
Yeah. Fuck Cars. Recently, I feel like, especially, I'm reminded this every time I go and see a Disney animated film, because you get trailers for like non-Disney animated films, and it makes me want to die.
Right?
Like
every time, without fail.
There are these other, what was that trailer about like monster wrestlers?
Dude, that was abysmal, wasn't it?
I wanted to kill myself. Oh my god. That was terrible. Like, it's getting to the point where I'm like, Sing 2 doesn't look that bad. Like,
Oh my god.
and I'm trying to remember, were kids' movies this bad? Like non-Disney kids' movies were this bad back in the day.
Remember a trailer from years ago for a movie called The Nut Job?
Yes, it got a 2.
It got a nut job too?
Yes.
Wow.
So yeah. No, I think Disney for the most part has been okay. Again, I wasn't crazy. I think parents would probably be cool with Frozen 2. I don't know about Wreck-It Ralph.
The audience I saw it with was primarily adults. Maybe they may be Disney adults, but they all loved it based on their reactions.
If you saw it opening night, it was probably Disney.
They were cracking
adults.
up.
It's hard to tell with audiences, I will say.
It is. Yeah.
Because the audience we saw The Lion King live action also loved it. And
oh, yeah, well.
yeah. But I do think this is one of those films where I think it does pass the metric where you can watch it, and at least by my standards, with kids, and it's like, oh, it's you can enjoy it.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there today. Thank you, Peter. Wow. Still over 2 hours. That's crazy. We're always able to have a wonderful show, aren't we? Thank you all for listening. Catch us back next time with whatever we have to say here under our red spotlight. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.